And welcome back, everybody. It is finally Friday, May 10th, here on the Catholic Convert Show. And we are back with more Catholic pleasure for your ear holes. So, Ed is again in an obnoxiously good mood. So,
Of course.
not even going to bother to ask you how you doing. But what do you got planned for this weekend, brother?
What do I got planned? You know what? It's going to be. The weather's going to be a little bit iffy. We're going to have some breaks of sunshine tomorrow, and I think it's going to be rainy again on Sunday. But hopefully, in the interim, at some point, I can squeeze in a little drive to the beach, hang out a little bit, have some pizza and some sausage sandwiches and some fries and stuff on the boardwalk. Enjoy a little bit of the sunshine that we get, and get a little of that salt air in my lungs and hear them seagulls chirping. That's always a good thing. Always brightens up my weekend. Try to get down there almost every weekend. So we'll see if that comes to
Nice.
fruition. Of course, church on Sunday morning and the usual.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn because not this weekend, but coming up here in a weekend or two, we've got the Scottish Highland Games that are coming here, and so I kind of want to
Nice.
go do that. Just give me an excuse to walk around in a kilt. And this, I think it's the same weekend they have the Roman Days going on down in Georgia, just a couple of hours drive. And it'll give me an excuse to walk around dressed like a Roman. So I'm not sure which one I want to do more. The Scottish games sound fun though. I've never been to one. Closest thing I've gone to it is the Greek Orthodox Church, not far from my house. They have a Greek festival every year, and so you go down there and you see all the, they're doing like traditional Greek dancing. People are breaking plates and yelling at their family members. They got great food because I'm a sucker for souvlaki. It's one of my favorite dishes. And so it's great to go down there, eat way more than I should, yell at people, throw plates, uh, just kind of feel one of the crowd. But this weekend is one of those where I'm stuck doing
Yeah,
the
I'm glad.
duty of, oh, I got to go get brakes on
Yeah.
the car.
Hmm. I'm glad you reminded me because actually St. George's Greek Orthodox Church, which is down the street from me here, they have their festival this weekend as well. So thank you for the reminder. I'm gonna have to hit that. Yeah, a lot of good food, a lot of good stuff going on. And what are you talking about getting brakes on the car? You don't change your own brake pads and stuff?
I don't even cut my own grass, man. Look, I was a mechanic all through high school. I've rebuilt engines, I've rebuilt transmissions. I just don't like doing it. Like, you can say, hey, we're going to go on a 30-mile hike this weekend. It's going to be hot. It's going to be nasty. It's going to be uncomfortable. And you can sign me up. I'm down. Let's do it. Oh, I want you to get underneath your car and do these things. Do I know how to do it? Yes. Have I taught my sons how to do it? Yes. Am I going to do it if I can pay someone else? Absolutely not. So that's what I'm going to be doing. It's the same thing as with my grass. I hate yard work, but if I got to cut it, I'll cut it. I mean, but it's much easier to just pay a guy with a zero turn to come out here because I'm not going to pay 3 grand for a lawnmower. So if he's already got the zero turn and he can get it done in like 30 minutes, more power to him. I'm happy to oblige him with a little bit of a check, some cold water, and a tip. We're good there.
Yeah. For the price of 2 weeks of having your lawn cut, you can buy a cheap little walk behind mower and do it yourself for the rest of your life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm not good.
And it
Yeah,
gives
I'm
you a
not going
chance
to
to be
be
out
out
there
there.
communing with nature, get in touch with God.
Dude, I spent 2 years working as a writer and just sitting on my patio from like 5 a.m. until, I don't know, 4 o'clock in the afternoon and just feeding logs into the fire pit. and it was awesome, right? But put a
Mhm.
lot of effort into setting up this office. I'm going to utilize this
Mhm.
office, and you want me to commune with nature? I do it all the time when I go camping. I do it all the time when I go hiking. I do it all the time when I go for a run. But cutting grass is just not going to happen for me. I don't know if I even told you this, but if I even see pollen, I swell up like Oprah on hiatus. It's just terrible. And I'm not going to be doing that. There's no reason for me to go out there and cut my own grass just so I can say, oh, good, now I can't breathe for 5 days. There's no return on that investment.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I mean, I think you did mention you have allergies, and I've got bad allergies too, and, I kinda if I spend too much time out there, I turn green and curl up into a ball, but, I still do it. You know, you gotta get out there, you gotta do it, and that's another thing I forgot because actually I had planned on putting in my summer flowers in the flower beds for this weekend as well. So, yeah, it's gonna be a busy weekend out there, and
Yeah, my
and
wife
if I
handles all that
can
gardening stuff.
and if I can, you know, I can when I go to the beach, I'll probably, I got a new pole over the winter, a new 9-foot pole, and see if I can uh, cast out a few times, maybe bring in a striper or something like that. So I'll have some fish to throw on a grill. That'd be good. So yeah, you got to take advantage of those weekends. Got to get it all in.
Yeah, I'm okay with fishing. We can do that. I'm just not cutting grass. So I'll tell you what, I've only been Catholic for a year and 2 days, right? Officially 1 year and 2 days. And I have a calendar up here above my desk that has all of the holy days of obligation listed out, just so I don't miss any, because I get busy. I barely remember what day it is. I have to look at the date and say it out loud before I tell everybody, hey, it's Friday or whatever. But last night, I didn't realize it. And I looked up and I was like, holy crap, today's a holy day of obligation. And I'm like, but I have a holy hour at the Adoration Chapel that I have to do, right? Now,
Yeah.
I'm like, holy days of obligation, you usually have multiple opportunities to go to mass, right? You've usually got like one in the morning, one in the afternoon, one at night. Well, the next mass that was coming up by the time I realized was at 7. But I don't want to do the Judas
Mm,
shuffle to be over in the Adoration Chapel by 8. And so I'm freaking out. And then I'm like looking and I ask in our parish's Facebook group, and they're like, oh no, that is only if you're A, Anglican ordinate, B, Eastern Orthodox, um, or if you're in Philadelphia, Boston, Hartford, Connecticut, New York, and Omaha. I'm like, what? What? Because no, no, the Ascension Mass everywhere else outside of, like Canada or whatever, but the USCCB, uh, obviously
yeah.
we're one universal church. However, each diocese has a certain level of discretion of, like in New York, they're like, oh no, Thursday is the holy day of obligation. But everywhere else, it's celebrated on Sunday. So like, okay, good. But
Mhm.
just goes to show that as much time as I spend in study trying to learn more about the church, about the faith, about doctrine and protocol and all this other, there's still dumb stuff like that catches me up. But I had my wife freaking out. She was trying to get my kids. She's like, I don't know what to do. We still haven't gone to the dry cleaner to pick up their stuff. You know, their vest and their. I'm like, I don't know what to do either. I don't like going to church in any capacity whatsoever. Dressed poorly. But if I'm going to mass, I'm wearing a suit, right? And the kids are dressed very nice. We show the proper respect and reverence for God when we go to mass, and so we're freaking out. and she's texting her friend who goes to church with us, and she's like, "Hey, um, did you know? Because you might want to tell your husband and your kids. You guys got to start." And so for about 35 minutes, we were trying to figure out exactly what we were going to do to be able to go to mass, and then me not have to like call the co-adorer and be like, "Hey, I hope you went to mass earlier because I need you to cover me while I'm in mass, in the adoration chapel." And so yeah, 30 minutes of trying to run around with our heads cut off like chickens. Oh, no, no, no. That only applies to some dioceses. That only applies to Eastern and Anglican ordinate Catholics. Oh, well, the calendar that they gave me doesn't specify that. Well, okay, cool. But I did get to enjoy hearing the Latin Mass going on while I was in the Adoration Chapel because they're connected by the wall. But yeah, that was me yesterday. As soon as you and I get finished the show, all right, I'm going to do some more work for my clients and then just relax until it's time to go to the chapel. And then I just glance up at the calendar. I was like, oh, crap. It threw me off.
Yeah, I live in one of those dioceses where they had moved it to Sunday, and I don't like that. Uh, it seems that they're always trying to make things easier on us, uh, and I'm not a big fan of that, but it worked out anyway because I had, on Thursday nights I teach a Bible study. So if we hadn't moved it, then I would have either had to cancel the Bible study or I would have had a pretty empty room in my Bible study. So it worked out all right.
Yeah. And, I don't know when it was changed. And I'm with you on 99% of what you just said of the church shouldn't be making it easier for us to skirt, holy days of obligation and things like that. Do I understand the reasoning of moving that one, the Mass of the Ascension to a Sunday? Yeah, I do. I mean, even though technically by math it should have been Thursday. But I do understand, the whole reasoning behind moving it to Sunday. I don't understand why there's a discrepancy between certain dioceses all on the East Coast and then just randomly inserting Omaha, Nebraska into that. But I'm completely okay with the difficulty that comes up when you have a holy day of obligation on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and you still go to mass because it's a holy day of obligation, you know? And I kind of like sneer a little bit at the ones who go, "Ah, why can't they just do it on Sunday?" Well, that's an entirely different feast day, pal. I mean, Sunday's going to be an entirely different feast day, which is
Yeah.
why we're not going to do that. This is a holy day of obligation. Um, but with the ascension, I don't I don't think I would have a problem with it moving back to Thursday, just like I don't have a problem with it staying on Sunday. You know, eh,
Yeah.
I'm going to mass on Sunday, period. And if it was yesterday, then obviously I would have gone. But I'm okay with them leaving it there, and I don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, there may be some other super hardcore rad trads out there that want to beat me in the face for saying it's not a big deal, but that's okay. I've been hit in the face before. I used to be a boxer.
No, to me, it's just the whole idea, like I said earlier, about making things easier. So it's not really this particular thing. It's not about the ascension, but overall, it seems like they're always trying to make things a little easier. Like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but way back, well, I was going to say when we were kids, but when I was a kid, uh, I don't think your
When you
parents
and
were
my
even born
dad
yet,
were kids.
but um, yeah, exactly. What yeah, well, your dad probably could be the age of like my very younger brother, I think. But when I was a kid, it used to be that you didn't have anything to eat an hour prior to mass or to the liturgy. Now it's just an hour prior to receiving. So they've kind of effectively cut it down to a half hour, really. Like if you can eat something like about a half an hour before mass, and you're probably still good. Whereas when I was a kid, it was an hour before mass. They've gotten changed that one up a little bit, and I'm thinking, uh, I mean, I've never seen a case where they've made something easier on us that actually was beneficial to the faith or to our personal faith. You know what I mean? It's like when we had uh we had a bunch at the church I go to. There was a bunch of kids got their first Holy Communion last Saturday in the morning, and there'll be more again this Saturday, I believe. But I ran into some parents walking out of church on Saturday morning after their kids received, and they were excited because, "Oh, now I don't have to go to church tomorrow." I said, "Yeah, you kinda do." You know, going to your kid's first communion mass at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning does not count for your Sunday obligation. And like, "What? When did that happen?" I said, "Well, I don't know, 1,700 years ago." But, because then
roughly.
the more you make it easy for people. Yeah, roughly more the more you make it easy for people, the easier they want it to be. It's kinda like with fast days and things like that. Yeah, I mean, I'm actually Byzantine Catholic, and I mean, especially around Holy Week and stuff like that, our fast is crazy. I basically from from like Holy Thursday until Easter Sunday morning, I basically don't eat anything. You know, um, and I like that. I enjoy that. It puts me in the right frame of mind. It puts me in a frame of mind that I need to be for for the events of that week. Um, so I don't know. I mean, like, hey, that's just my personal opinion. I think we need to go back to making things harder on Catholics, not easier.
Yeah, I get that. I'm kind of the same way with even if I go to a vigil mass on a Saturday because it's just one that I wanted to attend, not one that was like an obligation, not like a holy day of obligation. Not one. I don't think there are any holy days of obligation on Saturdays. But anyway, but let's say they're saying we're gonna have a procession for this or that or um just whatever, any kind of mass that is outside of an ordinary solemn mass or whatever that just happens to be on a Saturday. I'm still going to be there on Sunday, even though because it is past sunset and it does count toward your Sunday obligation, because that is the ancient tradition. Anything past sundown is considered, you know, under that envelope for the following day. And I totally get people that have to do stuff like that if they
Oh
have a
yeah.
morning shift
Mhm.
on a Sunday, like they have with their job, right? So I totally get that. But this past Christmas, there was zero chance that I was going to miss my first ever midnight mass because my parish, we live stream our 10 a.m. mass, and I think they live stream the 8 a.m. mass too. But for obvious reasons, we can't live stream the 12:30 Latin mass just because people get upset about it, and we're not going to name those people, but they know who they are. And we're praying for you. But I've seen how beautiful the church is decorated, and I've seen, you know, all the lights go off, and then they come around with, the Advent and the Paschal candle, and you see the light start spreading from candle to candle as it goes through the entire congregation, and then the church is fully illuminated. It's candlelight mass already as it is. The high altar is just absolutely beautiful. I can't even think of another word. I wish there was a stronger word than beautiful to describe it. So I'm like, okay, we're going to do it. We're going to go to the midnight mass. And so it was me, my wife, and my 15-year-old son. Because obviously we weren't going to drag the 9-year-old and the 11-year-old. They'd have passed out before we even got halfway through the mass. And then the midnight mass lasted probably until 1:30 to 2 o'clock in the morning, which meant that we didn't get home because we have like a 35-45 minute drive from our parish home. Uh, we got home around 2:30 to 3 o'clock, somewhere in that window. Came in, took off my suit, didn't even put it back on the hanger, just laid it over my chair, got into bed, passed out, woke up at 5:30, went made coffee, woke the kids up at 7 and said, "All right, time to start getting your breakfast and all this other because you got to get dressed at 8 because we're leaving at 9." Did all that on Christmas Day and then still went to the Christmas Day mass. Was I required to? Technically no, because I was already there at Christmas once on at midnight, but I loved I love mass. And so if I've got an opportunity to go, I'm going. Did the exact same thing this past Easter Vigil. The Easter Vigil, good grief, it lasted 4 hours at my parish because we had so many new people coming into the church. You know, my youngest son was baptized. My daughter was baptized and received first communion. My 15-year-old was baptized, received communion, and confirmation. So I think we had altogether 50 or so people uh, as between confirmands and baptisms all coming into the church. Might have been a little more than that. Might have been a couple less, but it was average 50. So 4 hours into the Easter Vigil Mass, and then still showing up on Easter Sunday. And the Easter Vigil Mass didn't begin until 8 o'clock at night, but we had to be there at 7 and then wait until 8 because they had to get everybody organized for the order that they were going to go in from the procession, lighting the holy fire outside, having the procession into the church, and then the lighting of the candles and all of it. 4 hours. So we left it, got home a little after midnight. No, we got home almost a little after 1 and up on Easter Sunday. Same thing, 5 o'clock. Got everybody ready, back to mass again, and everybody's exhausted, but it's so worth it. it's it's so worth it. I can't think of an excuse to miss a Sunday mass, even if I'd gone already to a vigil mass.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I wish more people could see the beauty of the mass and especially of the holy days of the Catholic Church. I mean, growing up in the Byzantine tradition, we went to midnight mass for Christmas every year, and yeah, same thing. I mean, especially being an altar server, I would have to be there probably about 8:30, 9 o'clock in the evening, and we wouldn't be getting home until you know 2 o'clock, 2:30 on Christmas morning, and but I wouldn't have traded that in for anything, and especially being an altar server during Holy Week. I mean, with everything that went on from Holy Thursday through Good Friday, Holy Saturday, Easter Sunday. I mean, I basically should have had a cot in the church at that point, but again,
You
I
might
wouldn't have
as
traded
well,
that in for
man.
anything. It was beautiful to be a part of that, and but it was great though. I mean, when we had when we would have the procession on Good Friday, I was always one of the clacker guys. That was my thing. I love doing it. Um, and then we'd be there Holy Saturday afternoon for, of course, in the Byzantine tradition, we're very big on getting our Easter baskets blessed with all our traditional Easter foods that are going to be consumed on Easter Sunday. Um, which was tough as a kid because you're smelling the ham and the kolbas and all the stuff, and it's another 2 days before you can eat it. Um, but and then of course the resurrection services and stuff went. We were there for hours and hours, and but it was beautiful. It's such beautiful customs, traditions, and now we've had this discussion how I kind of church hop a little bit because I like to get the
Yeah.
pulse of the diocese, if you will. But I love being on Christmas, or at least during the Christmas season. I love going to this one church in West Trenton called Our Lady of Good Counsel. It's a smaller parish as far as the congregation size. It's a nice big church because it's way back in the day there was a much larger population of Catholics in that area. But it's just a single priest there. He does everything, and he's got a very artistic flair. And so for every Easter, for every Christmas, there's going to be something new that he introduces, and so like this year I'll have to show you some pictures. It was stunning. It was beautiful. Obviously, we know that Bethlehem translates to house of bread. So in the weeks
Hmm.
leading up to Advent, he had us bring in our just any stale bread that we had lying around and donating that. And I'm thinking, what is this guy going to do? Well, he actually built usually you have a creche, and I never can pronounce that
Yeah.
properly, but where, the little uh, enclosure where the birth of Jesus took place. And in lieu of that, he built one out of all this stale bread. It was stunning. It was beautiful. So Christ was literally born in this church in a house of bread. But here was he's the bread of life, and he comes to us from this house of bread. It was beautiful. But he does stuff like that every year. Um, the year before, he had us all write our promises, what we were going to do for Christ in the upcoming year, on little pieces of wood, and he built the creature out of that. He built it out of all these little pieces of wood with all of our promises of what we were going to do for Jesus in the coming year. And again, it was beautiful. Uh, but I love that. I love mixing it up a little bit. I love because I get enough of the old school tradition when I go to my Byzantine Catholic Church, where things haven't changed since the days of Saint John Chrysostom and Saint Basil the Great. So it's nice going to this church where he kind of changes it up a little bit, and but in a respectful and beautiful way.
Yeah. Some people are going to hear that and they'll think, what? It's kind of weird. Performative modern art is that? But it's obviously one of those things where you had to be there, you know? And so I get it. And I agree. I'm trying to say this where don't end up getting in trouble. There are different expressions in which someone can honor Christ, right? Like we have a 1,200-pound camel that is life sized at my parish, and it's part of our nativity. And we actually have the largest nativity in the entire state of South Carolina because all of our figures are life sized and they're all solid wood. They come from a company whose name I cannot pronounce in Germany, but they've been making wooden sculptures for the church since about the 1500s. And the company's still in business. I think it's been passed down through the entire family, to be honest. But we've got this giant life-size donkey, and someone was saying, "Well, we've got farmers and stuff that attend our parish, or people that own farms. I don't know if I'd call them farmers, but why don't we just get Father Chris to actually ride a donkey on Palm Sunday? We could just borrow it from one of the guys." you know? And I'm like, and people try to turn their nose about it. I'm like, it's no different than a live nativity. When you have a live nativity at any church, whether it's, a Catholic church, Greek Orthodox, whether it's a Protestant church, it's no different than a live nativity, right? And so, yeah, there are different expressions, and I don't see anything wrong with that. Even though people they might, and they're entitled to their opinions, even if their opinions are wrong. So, all that taken care of. Some Catholic headlines today. Yesterday, Pope Francis proclaimed the 2025 Jubilee papal bull, Hope Does Not Disappoint. And um I really liked that was the papal bull indiction for the Jubilee. Hope does not disappoint. Because if you think about it, you're on Twitter, I'm on Twitter. I live in the South where there's, being a filthy papist is one of the things that comes with, par with the course when you live in the old Bible Belt. But it's really easy for us
Yeah.
as just people to fall into this state of everything sucks. It's all, doom and gloom. The world is ending, da 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 kind of thing. The protesters are this, or the anti-Catholic rhetoric is that, and da 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 da. It's really easy to just become a pessimist if that's all you pay attention to. So I was very happy when I saw the papal bull titled "Spes non confutit" or "Hope Does Not Disappoint." Um, obviously declares the Jubilee year officially begins with the opening of the Holy Door at St. Peter's Basilica on Christmas Eve this year. Um, Pope Francis also further decreed that every Catholic cathedral around the world should offer Mass on December 29th, 2024, as a solemn opening of the Jubilee year for their local communities. And he's even encouraging all these different dioceses to organize pilgrimages to the cathedrals for the occasion. Now, in smaller dioceses, that is going to be a lot easier, and for larger parishes, that'll be easier. Um, the cathedral for my diocese is in Charleston, which is only a 3-hour drive away, so it's not that bad. We drive that long just to go sometimes. But when he mentioned pilgrimages, it made me want to ask you: Have you ever done a pilgrimage, like outside of the country? I mean.
Outside of the country, no, I have not. It's uh it's certainly something I'd like to do. Hopefully I'll have the opportunity to. But unfortunately, no, I have not. I've got family members that have been able to go and do things like that. Um, so it's kind of bucket list material for me now. And actually the thing I really want to do in that vein is that I'm kind of working up to doing that now, and have my little slush fund for it, is I'd love to do the Way of St. James, where
Hmm.
where you walk from uh, France through Spain over to Portugal and wind up at the cathedral there. I'd like to be able to take like a month and do that. I think that would be a phenomenal experience, and certainly one where you're alone with your thoughts, and you probably have some amazing spiritual experiences along the way. But no, as far as actually taking an out of the country pilgrimage, I have not had the opportunity yet.
So we've got one coming up for my parish uh, in November, and we're supposed to be going from. Well, we're gonna we would fly from here to Atlanta, from Atlanta to London, from London all the way to Athens, and it's the way of Saint Paul. And so we would walk, and well, not a lot of walking because it's a 5-day pilgrimage. It's not enough time, and you can't walk all the way into Istanbul either because you have to take the ferry. But it would be going over to where, like, to Thermopylae, over where the famous Battle of the 300 against the Persians took place, and where they've got the monument to King Leonidas, Mykonos island there. It's like a 3 day cruise from Athens um, there, and then back, and then crossing the water to Turkey, and then going to one of our sister churches there, and then coming back to Greece, uh, and then flying back out of Athens and just kind of reversing the steps all the way back. So that one seems really, really awesome. Ticket prices were way cheaper than I expected. But like for all of that, all your meals and everything, it was like 5 grand for 2 people. So way better than I expected it to be. But we did have
That's not
one
bad.
of no, we
Yeah.
had one of the parishes pilgrimages canceled, and I understand why it was canceled, but our parochial vicar was going to be leading a pilgrimage to the Holy Land, and that was scheduled prior to the pop off between Palestine and Israel. Obviously, things are not as bad as they were predicted, and I'm not saying they're not currently horrible, but they're slightly less horrible than what was predicted to, the situation to escalate to um, at the time. So they canceled that one because that was supposed to take place at the beginning of this year. But I know Cardinal Dolan and his team just returned from the Holy Land while they were there. And outside of the day Iran decided to fire all the missiles into Israel, they had a fairly uneventful trip. You know, I mean, obviously they had to spend about an hour or two in a bomb shelter, uh, but that one, I think I would have been more interested in going on that one simply because it's the Holy Land. It is the birthplace of our faith, right? You know, one day I'll finally make it to go see the uh, Church of the Holy Sepulchre, um, the tomb, site of the crucifixion at Golgotha. I want to see all of that. I want to go stand on the shore of Galilee, and where Christ stood. I want to go to the top of the Mount of Olives where Christ ascended from. I want to do all those things. I would also like to go and do all those things without the risk of getting blown up. So there's that.
That would be a plus. Yeah. That's top of my list, the Holy Land. I and I actually have a priest friend who goes there every couple of years, and and my sister has gone with him, and she says it's definitely a way to go because being a priest, number 1, you don't have to do the whole bus tour with everybody else where, you're working on their schedule, on the tour guide schedule. You maybe there's things that you want to see that you don't see, things that you don't want to see that you're going to see. So if you go with a priest, the beautiful thing is number one, he's been there a number of times. He knows where to go, what times to go, and things like that. And also, you at some of these incredible places, Church of the Nativity, places like that, he can say if he makes the arrangements, he can actually say mass. So, and I think that would be phenomenal having a priest friend of yours saying mass in some of these places that are so pivotal to our Catholic history, our Catholic faith. So that's definitely one I want to do. But my thing is that if I'm ever in the Holy Land, every time I go someplace that our Lord walked 2,000 years ago, I think I'm going to be blubbering like a baby, uh, just because that I'm so blessed to be there. Uh, so we'll see how that works out, though. But definitely, I've got to get that done at some point in my life as well.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that. I have to get a new chain for it, but this crucifix here, on the back is a s- stone that is sealed in resin, kind of there. And that stone was placed on the stone in the empty tomb in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. So just knowing that, you know, gives me all kinds of warm fuzzies. But to stand there where Christ walked would be an experience beyond all measure that I don't think I would ever forget. And it's something I'm definitely going to pursue. But again, it'd be nice to be able to go and come back because, like I said, I don't want to be on that list of companions just yet. Uh, but I do give massive amounts of respect and props to anyone that is still saying, you know what, I'm going to the Holy Land, regardless of what's going on. And I understand there's been some that they haven't been able to because the Israelis will say, no, we're not going to let anybody come and do this and that and the other because of security measures and safety reasons. Um, but anybody that's still going in the middle of this all conflict, God bless them, God protect them. Um, it takes an incredible amount of courage to go and do that. And if it was the if I was if the conflict was never going to end and I wanted to go, obviously I'm gonna have to go, right? But I'm still hoping this comes to a peaceful resolution. Uh, and it's going to have to be one of those where both sides stop trying to retaliate against each other and they both just stop. And hopefully that happens. But yeah, I understand why people, those kind of pilgrimages get canceled because you want your priest to come back home. Obviously you want them to, go to heaven as well. And it would be an incredible thing for your priest or yourself or whatever to end up becoming martyrs for the faith, but it's not something you want to plan either. Like I think it might have been St. Thomas More where he was like, I'm okay becoming a martyr as long as you kill me quick. I think it might have been him that said that.
I, I like that.
Yeah, yeah, you know
Yeah. It's funny. It, it's funny you say that though about your thoughts on going over there while there's conflict. Um, Now, obviously, unless it was legitimately offered to me, I can't say for certain how I would respond. But my feeling is like if somebody said, "Hey, all expenses paid. I've got a ticket for you to leave today to go to the Holy Land," I'd be there in a heartbeat. I don't not that I again,
same.
not that I'm looking forward to being martyred, not that I it's on my not that it's on my list of things I want to do is to be martyred because I'd really rather not be martyred. But to have that opportunity to go to a Holy Land, I don't care what's going on. I don't care what kind of bombs are flying over my head. I'm going to go. It's kind of like when you've got these opportunities for these incredible spiritual experiences. Um, I don't know. I mean, it would take a heck of a lot for me not to go. Anything that has to do with our faith, anything that has to do with spending time with the Lord, I'm on board. It's kind of like when I go into some really rough parts of Philadelphia to meet up and find and seek out the homeless and talk to them, spend time with them. And people say to me, "Man, dude, you're crazy. You're going by yourself into these really rough neighborhoods. You're looking to place yourself in the midst of people who can sometimes be unpredictable and stuff. What happens if it goes bad?" And I say, well, number one, I assume Christ is with me when I'm doing that kind of stuff. But number two, if something happens, it's going to happen while I'm doing what Christ has asked me to do. So, that's not a bad thing. And I know that's kind of a weird there's not a lot of people who would feel that way, but I do. So it's like, I feel the same way about visiting the Holy Land or something like that. If something's gonna happen to me while I'm there, I would consider that I'm blessed that it happened there. Um, I guess, I realize that's probably not a very popular way of looking at things, but if I'm someplace where Christ has been, or if I'm doing something that Christ has asked me to do, and that's when I meet my end, hey, I couldn't ask for anything better.
Yeah, and I can agree with that sentiment. But I like how you said it. If someone came to me and said it's all expenses paid, 100%, I would take the deal too. I gotta leave right now. Okay, cool. I'll go kiss my wife and say, "Hey, I'm going to Jerusalem. I'll be back." Um, I've got no problem with other people paying me to potentially be martyred. I just don't want to pay myself to be potentially martyred. If that is a more clear distinction. I'm okay if someone else foots the bill, I just don't wanna directly fund it.
Yeah, I guess I can understand that. Yep.
Like, yeah, somebody else wants to, pay to send me to Jerusalem and, walk the footsteps of Christ, 100%, let's go, bro. Well, there's bombs. Well, we'll step around them or we'll duck. But no, oh, I have to pay for it? I'll wait till they're not fighting. 'Cause if I'm gonna pay for it, I wanna have a good experience. If somebody else is paying for it, I just take what I get because beggars can't be choosers. You can't ask the guy who's paying for it to,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know, post date the tickets. Oh, but we are coming up on 10 minutes left in the final show of the week. And then we give these poor savages a break where they don't have to listen to us anymore. So, who do we have today for the saint of the day? And I hope I'm pronouncing uh, all of this correctly. The saint of the day is Saint Damien de Veuster of Moloka'i. And I'm 90% sure I got the Hawaiian part right, but I hope it's Voister, Veuster. I'm gonna say Voister because it sounds correct. Of Moloka'i. Now, Saint Damien
I think you nailed it.
was maybe Saint Damien was born January 3rd, 1840, and then died April 15th on or in 1889. When Joseph de Voister was born in Tremelo, Belgium in 1840, few people in Europe had any firsthand knowledge of leprosy, or what's now known as Hansen's disease. By the time he died at age 49, people all over the world knew about this disease because of him. And they also knew that human compassion could soften the ravages of this disease. Now, when he was 13, he was forced to quit school and work on the family farm. Um, but he also later entered 6 years later into the congregation of the Sacred Hearts of Jesus and Mary, taking the name of a fourth century physician and martyr. And when his brother Pamphile, a priest in the same congregation, fell ill and was unable to go to the Hawaiian Islands as assigned, Damien quickly volunteered in his place. In May 1864, 2 months after having arrived in his new mission, he was ordained a priest in Honolulu and assigned to the island of Hawaii. In 1873, he went to the Hawaiian government's leper colony on the island of Moloka'i and set up 7 years that had been set up 7 years earlier. Uh, Part of a team of four chaplains taking that assignment for 3 months each year, Damien soon volunteered to remain permanently and caring for the people's physical, medical, and spiritual needs. In time, he became the most effective advocate to obtain the promised government support that had been lacking for so long. Soon, the settlement had new houses, a new church, a school, orphanage, and morale improved overall quite considerably. few years later, he succeeded in getting the Franciscan Sisters of Syracuse, led by Mother Marianne Cope, to help staff this colony in Kalaupapa. Damien contracted Hansen's disease and died of his complications, unfortunately. As requested, he was buried in Kalaupapa, but in 1936, the Belgian government succeeded in having his body moved back to Belgium, and part of his body was returned to his beloved Hawaiian brothers and sisters after his beatification in 1995. When Hawaii became a state in 1959, it selected St. Damien as one of its two representatives in the statuary hall in the U.S. Capitol. And Damien was canonized by Pope Benedict the 16th on October 11th, 2009. It's wild when I hear about how difficult things were with leprosy, obviously from biblical times, even as far, back into the 1800s, early 1900s, before it was even known or renamed Hansen's disease. But now it's curable. You get leprosy from an armadillo, or coming into contact with someone else with Hansen's disease, but it's treatable. It's actually curable now. But at a time, because diseases like that are absolutely terrifying, especially if you're religious at all and you know about leprosy in the Bible, to volunteer to just be like, yeah, I'll probably get it, but these people need me. God is sending me there. God is calling me there. So it's almost like just knowing that you're eventually going to get it and you're going to die from it, but you go anyway. It's an act of self-sacrifice.
Yeah, it's but I love stories like Saint Damien's, because and people who know me know that I have an incredible respect for the priesthood, and for anyone who volunteers to give their life in the service of our Lord, and you're right. I mean, the guy signed up for a death sentence, and not a pretty death either, and but it was what he was called to do, and so I am sure not only did he go there willingly, he went there happily, and that kind of attitude is one that always amazes me. But you see it so many times with just people that are so filled with the faith, and people that are uh, they really, those are the people that get it. They understand that regardless of whatever kind of suffering you go through in this world, if that suffering is in the name of or for the sake of Christ, there's just such a beautiful reward waiting for you. Um, and it's crazy. You hear about these martyrs that that go to their death singing praises and things like that. And man, wouldn't it be great to have that kind of faith? Wouldn't I mean?
Yeah.
I pray for that, to have that strong of a faith, that if I was staring down the barrel of imminent death, but I was doing it for the Lord, that I would say, "Hey, this is a great opportunity for me," And yeah, I'm always fascinated by these stories. And I mean, look at this guy. I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, he knew he was, if he's once he spent enough time there with these people, he was going to contract the disease and he was going to die. And it was going to be a horrible death, and he did it. And I don't know. God bless these people, and we're so lucky and we're so blessed that we have these examples throughout our Catholic history to
Yeah. I mean,
emulate.
it's a straight up, I know I'm going to get the disease and die, but that's where I'm going. Okay, cool. You can't get much, you can't get ballsier than that, you know. And I'm with you. I think we all like to think that we would have that kind of willingness to accept what's coming. Everybody likes to talk about well, if they made Christianity illegal, would you stand up and be executed for Christ? There's a ton of people that say yes that would absolutely not, and history proves that, right? But there's also a ton of people that would say yes, and you can't tell who is, who won't. But what you can do is you can pray for that kind of faith, and you can, pray for that kind of strength of will to accept what God is asking of you, because it's not going to be easy no matter what's coming. God wants you to live until you're 80. That's his plan for you. That's going to be hard. That's going to be 80 years of random heartbreaks, complications, illnesses, losses, pain, suffering. Okay. Well, okay. God wants you to die as a martyr at the age of 35. That's also going to be friggin' hard because you're missing out on everything that comes from 35 on, right? So it does take a bit of resignation to just say, like Mary did, let it be your will more than mine, in Mary's fiat. You know, it it's unfathomable. It is unfathomable to some people for that kind of surrender to God's will. But that's what we all have to strive for. And when I see stories like Saint Damien, who I heard for the first time today,
Yeah.
it is inspiring.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's funny you're talking about the way you may uh, die at 35 or 80, but there's going to be hardship along the way either way. And I remember a few years ago, I was at a Life in the Spirit seminar, and one of the guys that was in my little breakout group, I don't even remember exactly what we were talking about. We were talking about like the obligations that are involved with being a Catholic. And he looks at me and he said, I don't know, seems to me being Catholic is pretty easy. And I remember looking at him and saying, then I think you're probably not doing it right. Because if you think that being Catholic is easy, there's some things that you're probably supposed to be doing that you're not doing. You know what I mean? So I saw him a couple years later, and he said, "Yeah, I think I probably misspoke."
Sure, bud. It's definitely easy. Oh, it kind of reminds me of that meme that goes around where that actor's at the gallows and he's got the noose around his neck. He's looking over at the other guy who's just crying. He's like, "Was it your first time?" Yeah, no, no, no. You'll get used to it. Oh, you know, and, and and it shouldn't be easy. Christ suffered for us. At the very least, we can suffer for him, and there's no way we'll ever suffer as much as he suffered. Right? There's absolutely no way that we could suffer the way that he suffered. I mean, the amount of injuries alone would kill people way before the crucifixion ever happened, right? There's no way we could endure that. There's no way we could suffer that and match Christ's sacrifice, right? So, at the very least, we can suffer getting up early and going to Mass after being at a Mass on
True.
Saturday night. The very least, we can suffer people calling us bad names. At the very least, when God says, you know, you're not being charitable enough. Yeah, but I'm down to my last $10. You can use five and give the other five to the poor. You know, it's not that big of an ask. We just make it bigger than we really need to because we're a comfortable people.
Yeah.
You know, unless you're in Detroit or some parts of Atlanta, you don't have to fight off bands of you know marauders on horseback. Every time you leave the house, life's pretty good. You know, and we just we tend to withdraw so hard sometimes from even the most minor, you know, inconveniences. It'll be all right. You can get up. You can go to mass. You can go to that holy day of obligation. And if God tells you you need to go here, even though you know it's going to suck and you might not come back from it, then go. Right?
Yeah.
It's the least you
Yeah.
can do.
It is at least it's funny because I think about um the same holds true for adults, but when I work with the CCD kids, and if it's just something like I ask them to read a little bit something extra that week, or there's going to be a little 5 or 6 question quiz or whatever, all the moaning and groaning starts. And oh, I can't believe we have to do this. This is terrible. Why do we have to do this just because we're in our CCD class? And I say, oh, no, no, you're right. And I look behind me and I point at the crucifix. I say, yeah, compared to what Jesus did, you've got it so much harder. Yeah, let's just take it easy. Let's cancel the quiz. Let's cancel the reading assignment because that's much harder than being crucified. So, but
Yeah. Yeah. You can,
there's going to listen. If you're going to be Catholic in this world, there's going to be some sacrifice involved, and thank God for that because it's those sacrifices um, that are going to pave the way to a very happy eternity, right?
God willing. But we are going to wrap it up. It is Friday. I know you all are very sick of hearing us every day. So we'll give you a 2-day break and we're going to come back to assault your ear holes on Monday. But before I go, one quick unobtrusive plug for Holy Habits on the Google Play Store, on the Apple App Store. Habit Tracker helps you develop and keep the holy habits, whether it's daily prayer, a daily rosary, novenas, checking in with your mom, praying for your priest, praying for yourself, praying for others. It is a holy app tracker, right? Because sanctity is for everyone. Saints were everyday people, and everyday people are called to be saints. But that's going to do it for the show. We're going to wrap it up, and you guys enjoy the weekend. We will both see you back on Monday, and that's going to wrap it up.
Have a good one, everybody.
Stop telling them what to do. You're not their dad.
All right, have a miserable one.